This is Twisted Passages with award-winning author Marie Sutro. Now, let's take a deep dive into the dark world of psychological thrillers and meet the authors who created them.
Hello, and welcome to Twisted Passages. I'm your host, Marie Sutro, and today we have best-selling author Jason Dalgliesh here to talk about his new release, HOMEWRECKER. Welcome, Jason.
Hello, thank you for having me on. Appreciate it.
I am so excited to dig into this book because you got me 8 Ways from Sunday with this book. But before we jump in, can you start listeners off with an overview of what the story is about?
It's about a woman who starts a career. She has a family and she's trying to balance career and family, which is, I think, a very common theme these days. I think women are told you can have it all, but you've got to do everything. And she's trying to balance a work life and a career that she never anticipated. She's worked hard and she's made it to the top of her profession, and she's trying to cope with all of those aspects that are pulling her every different direction. So she has a teenage daughter and a teenage son, and she has a husband who also has a very demanding job, and she's trying to be all things to all people with fantastic consequences.
Extremely fantastic consequences. Absolutely so twisty. And you just hit every one of those psychological elements. And like I said, you got me in the end. So thank you for that.
Very welcome. I'm delighted you enjoyed it. That is the idea. So that's good to hear. Thank you.
Where did you get the idea for this story?
The idea for the story, without giving away any spoilers for anyone who hasn't read it yet, you should. Actually, it came from my own home life, but the good bits of my home life, which is my wife, Helen. She's a chartered mechanical engineer, and she's had to work in the male-dominated world. And I've seen it firsthand that she's had to do everything twice as well as the man next to her to be considered half as good. So I see the amount of effort she's had to put in. And we've got young children. And initially, I was a stay-at-home dad. So I was around for the kids when they were young. And so she was able to follow her career. But obviously, the last 7 years, things have slightly changed in what I do. So my time as Paul, so she's had to try and balance both. So I've seen that, and that gave me that inspiration. And coupled that with the same, the Me Too movement that picked up a few years back, these sorts of things and the interactions that the women have to cope with in the workplace and just in life in general, it all just coalesced into this story. And fortunately, the darker sides of the book, because it is a psychological thriller, that's not real. That didn't happen in our house. Don't worry, it's completely fine. But that's where the kernel of the story came from. And then I just had to develop it a little bit more and add a few dark twists in it that comes from my mind.
One of the things that stood out to me so profoundly was the authenticity with which you write female characters. Your voice as a female is absolutely amazing, hitting all of the struggles that you mentioned. And one of the big things that I got out of the story, which is exactly what we want in a psychological thriller, is pressure. There are so many levels of pressure that you put this main character, Sophie, you have it coming at her from all sides.
She did go through the ringer. That's true. Yes.
She did, and then some. She's got pressure at work. She's got pressure at home. She's got pressure in her relationship. Pretty much everywhere she's facing pressure. And again, when it comes to a psychological thriller, that's exactly what we want to see is this person going to unravel? Are they going to rise to the occasion? And we can all relate to that.
There was also the pressure that she puts on herself, to be all these things. So all the pressure that's coming at all angles, she felt she had to be the best that she could be at everything in every aspect of her life. And it really isn't that easy. You can't do it. There's always a trade-off with whether you have a career or you have a family or you just have a job or whatever you do. You have to dedicate time and energy into it. Some people are miraculous and they can do all these things and make it look really easy. I haven't met one, but I do hear about them. I don't know whether they're faking it, but she has that pressure herself where she puts herself under the thing to achieve. So it's not always coming externally, it's internally as well. So you have that internal dialogue that she's not succeeding as well as she should be. Whereas on the outside, everyone looking at her is saying she has everything.
And what was so fun about it is you didn't really put her out there completely all alone. she does have a support structure. She does have this family. Even her agent is a supportive person in her life. And so you're really looking at it wondering, is she going to crack? Can she crack? I mean, look at this world she's got around her. Now, she does have one very difficult child to deal with. That's yes. Definitely a challenge. She's kind of the child from hell in certain ways. I mean, wow, you really put it to poor Sophie with this daughter.
Yeah, I don't have a daughter. I have two sons. Neither of them are like that character. But what I did was I looked at my children and I thought, well, how would they make my life really, really difficult? And I just flipped it. All children can be trying. You know, we all push the boundaries as we grow up. I mean, some of us do it as adults. It was not that hard to think, right, what buttons would they need to push on me to really put me under pressure? And they have their moments. I think everybody does. But she is particularly trying, I would say. It's very difficult.
She really is. And that goes to one of the things I loved so much in this story was the dialogue. The parent-child dialogue is amazing because she does have two children who are markedly different in their personalities and in their behavior.
Yes, absolutely. And again, that's inspired by real life. I have children, and sometimes I think maybe there was some kind of a mix-up at the hospital and we came home with the wrong child because they are so totally different. They do look fairly similar, so I think I'm safe. But they have very different interests. They don't play the same sports. They don't listen to the same music, and they're quite close together in age. They're not too far apart. In this book, they are much further apart, the brother and sister. Our two children are so completely different. They're completely different people. And you think they're in the same environment. They grew up with the same parents. They got of the same attention and love and care and nurturing as we try. They went to the same schools, or they go to the same schools, and how they can be so completely different. Part of I found as a parent was accepting that this child that you have, or these children, they are actually mini people, and they have their own thoughts and feelings and their own views on the world. And you think you could sort of mold them and shape them and steer them. I think I gave up on that by about the age of 5. I realized that this just wasn't going to happen. They're going to do their own thing. And maybe I just need to get out of the way sometimes.
It was great how you explored those relationships. And coming back to one of the things you just mentioned, that atmosphere that she's in, the atmosphere this family's in, the setting. Can you describe this house? Because it is phenomenal. And most of the story kind of takes place in the house, which, again, it becomes its own pressure cooker.
That was the idea. Most of the books I've written previously, my crime thrillers, they take in locations and settings and landscapes, and that all becomes part of the book. So it was a real challenge for me to take a story with a handful of characters and put them in one place, predominantly for 95% of the book, and just have their interactions and how they evolve through the story and how they interact with one another. So it exactly as you said, the idea was that it becomes this pressure cooker, that the home is where most people would consider as their safe space. They could be themselves. You know, when you're outside, you're at work or at school, or you're with your friends, you don't have to be, but most people try to fit in, or they try to be who they're expected to be. But when you're in your own space and, you know, that's your safe space, you can be yourself, you can say what you want to do without fear. And, you know, that is where you're in a family unit and you're all together. So the idea of taking that safe space that everyone loves, and once you get inside, you close that door, you can breathe and you think, I can relax now. Well, that's when I really turn it up. That's when it becomes really, really intense. And if anything, leaving the house is where you get some respite, but then you bring in all the other pressures as well.
The house itself, the way you described it, was so phenomenal. It's atmospheric for so many reasons, but that concept that you just described about it being your safe place, and what happens when you can't be safe in your safe place, what does that do? How hard does that ratchet up the psychological pressure, if you will? And there's this part where you're feeling for Sophie, because she should have this intimate safe space, yet it's being violated progressively. And that was absolutely amazing, because it just starts to insidiously creep. She's not even safe in her own home, potentially.
And the house, not just the shell of the house, but where it is, it's set in a beautiful part of London, which if you ever were to go there, you walk along and it is the mansion townhouses that are just opposite the Regent's Park. And it is I couldn't live there. I'd love to live there. In that house, it would be wonderful to live in a place like that. I'd have to sell a few more books, maybe. Maybe, you never know. But it is what you would consider a dream home. It's in central London. It's got the architecture. It's got the exclusivity. It's got multiple floors. It's got everything in it that you would have in a dream home. It's a fantastic place, and it's supposed to be, as you say, your safe place where you go and you're living out your dreams. And when you take that away, where does someone go? And particularly in Sophie's case, she's a TV personality. She's recognized in the street. So when she's out in public, she has to be who everyone expects her to be. So she can't go out somewhere and find respite because everyone recognizes her. She's one of the most recognized faces on television because she's on TV every morning into the homes of millions of people throughout the country. Where does she go? So if she can't be at home and feel safe, where can she go? And the answer is, well, you disappear into your own space, into your own head, in your own psyche. And I think if you live in your own, anyone who spent lots and lots of time on their own, I mean, I'm an author. I spend most of my time on my own. It's lovely and it's great. But I do become a little bit strange once I've been locked in my office for a few weeks. And I start talking to my wife and she says, oh, you need to get out a little bit more. So she's in this constantly, day in, day out, week in, week out. And if she comes out of her own space, she has everything else to deal with. And it all just starts unraveling around her. And she's trying to hold it together. Is it as a result of her being the way she is? Or is everybody else around her unraveling her? So it's that, and that's the ongoing that internal monologue she has about, is she just trying to do too much, and what's going to give?
As the reader trying to figure those questions out, the answers to those questions, one of the things I loved was the way that you very intelligently slow played revelations about Sophie, about her past, about people around her, just kind of how Chinese water torture can destroy somebody mentally. You kind of gave us facts in that little drip, drip, drip that is so insidious, but so fun because we think we know people. And then we start to wonder, do we really know these characters?
Isn't that just real life, though? There's that old saying, you never really know what's going on behind closed doors. And sometimes you don't even know what's going on in the minds of the people that are closest to you. So dropping those little bits in from the backstory that were external factors that guide the story to where you reach the conclusion. Well, that was the fun bit for me. Well, how can I drop all these little bits in? Not giving away too much, because it'd be very easy to give too much. And then you can figure it out. Some people probably will figure it out. That's great. I challenge any author to keep everybody in the dark right to the end. I think we managed to bring it together, my editing team, just to make sure there was enough there to keep you going, and then at the end still to be a bit of a shock surprise factor.
One of the other things that I thought was so fun in the telling of this story, again, that kind of drip, drip, drip of information, was you gave us 2 points of view. We predominantly get Sophie's, but then we also get pieces from someone else. Can you talk about the choice to do that, where you did it, and having that strategy of what to reveal and how between these two characters?
Yeah, initially when I came up with the concept, it was all first person, so it was all from Sophie's point of view. But when you have those internal monologues going on with one character and you have to feed in all the other aspects, if you have it first person point of view just with one character, that character has to be in every scene in the book. And if you're going to see things picking at her life, you have to introduce another element. But if you have too many characters' points of view in the book, then it becomes probably this sort of twisty book becomes too complicated and you'll lose people along the way. So simplicity is, in my opinion, is the best answer. So if you have two people, then you have two different voices and you can have two different points of view. And you can even introduce the same elements from different points of view and they appear completely different. Because, as you say, if you have two people, you can have two people in a room experiencing exactly the same thing and you ask them both, they will come up with a completely different description because they'll pick up different elements of what people say or different emphasis, or they'll mishear things. And so that was the idea, was to try and play those two, to not play those characters off, but play those two viewpoints off for the reader to try and figure out what's going on here. There's obviously more going on, and who's playing who's doing what, who's malevolent, who's actually the good guy, who's not, or, it was just to try and introduce those different elements. Simplicity is complex, but simple at the same time, if that makes any sense at all.
It absolutely does. And I was also struck by who's good and who's malevolent. As the story plays out, we have different opinions of different characters at different times. I was curious, you've been at this a long time, writing characters, observing humanity as an artist. Do you think anyone's all good, or on the converse, anyone's all bad?
I think there's that phrase of the grey area. If you pick someone from the most evil people in history, if you take them through, can you find something they've done in their life that redeems something in their character? Now, obviously, the really full-on evil people, you think, well, just being a vegetarian at the end doesn't really count. It's not going to redeem you. But I think all of us exist at different points in our life in that grey area between good and bad. Sometimes we'll do good things, we'll have bad days, and we'll be, most of the time you can be a really great person, but it's how you interact with other people. So 99% of the time you could be the most polite, friendly, well-mannered person with everyone you meet, and then that one day you're just having a bad day. You woken up late, you slept through your alarm, you're late for work, you get to work, you've had a horrible meeting, you go out for lunch and you've left your wallet, and just and then you bump into someone and they look at you and say, hey, and you don't apologize that time, you just walk off. And that person has that perception of you, well, that guy is really horrible. I mean, not evil, but, just really rude. But, 99% of the time, you are not that person. And no one can be a good person all the time because people make mistakes. No one is perfect. And again, it's about perception. How I perceive someone is a good person or a bad person or well-mannered or not. Everyone's perception is different. Sometimes you can meet someone and you get an idea for them and you form a view in your head, and we all do it. And you think, oh, I don't like that guy. My instinct is I don't like that guy. And then maybe 6 times later I've met them and I think, yeah, I was actually wrong. She's really quite nice, but I caught them on a bad day, or I was on a bad day and I projected my bad mood onto them and thought they were being rude to me. It's, I think we are very complicated people and we lead complicated lives. And I think everybody just kind of exists in that grey area. I do believe in that most people in this world just want to be good people. They want to have good lives. They want to have good things, good interactions with their family, their friends, and just be all-round decent human beings. Probably people will be watching this saying, oh, that's not my experience. I think some people have god awful. But maybe that some people are. But I don't think anyone is inherently good or inherently bad. I think you can find the good in the worst of people. Will it be enough to redeem them if they are a really bad person? Probably not. But I can't believe that there are people in the world who are just pure evil for their entire lives, their whole time on this earth. They might be awful when they're younger or when they're older or in middle age. I'm saying, as I'm saying that, I'm thinking all these horrible dictators are popping into my head. These evil people, or evil serial killers who have done terrible things. I think, no, there can't be a redeeming factor in there. Or maybe they took a cat once or something. I don't know. But on the whole, most people, I think, just live in those areas, and sometimes it's just when you catch them.
I have to agree with you, because it comes back to that other issue you were mentioning before, which is we just don't know what's going on inside of someone. And again, from the storyteller perspective, when we look at someone, if you look at them in 2025, where were they in 1985? Were they even alive? And if so, what happened to them in those times? And how did that frame who they are? And it doesn't necessarily excuse dark and evil behavior, but at least we start to understand, because some of these things, I think as humans, we just keep walking into walls over and over again. This story is a great example. Sophie's situation, what happens, is so cringeworthy for the reader, because you're like, oh, you guys aren't going to do that, are you? Do you really think that's a good idea as a married couple? Is this really what your family needs right now? So there's those moments where you just want to tell people, don't do the stupid thing, but people are going to do the stupid thing, and that's
people will do the stupid things, and I think what do you say? You always give other people better advice than you give yourself.
Yes.
I think I can give other people wonderful advice, but when it comes to my own life, I can make a mess of everything. I really can.
Well, I'm right there with you. I can make a surefire mess. One of the last questions I want to ask you, you've written a lot of amazing stories. What do you do for fun when you are not locked up and writing about all these amazing characters?
This is fun for me. This is what I do for fun. I mean, no, what do I do? I have a dog. We walk on the beach a lot. I'm very lucky that where we live is within a 10-minute drive. I can't walk to the beach, sadly. I'd love to one day, but 10-minute drive, I can be on miles of sand, and I'll take the dog for a walk, whether it's wind, rain or shine, which is fortunate because this is England, and if you've been to England, then you know. So I do like being outside. I like being outdoors. I'm not someone. You'll be probably surprised to learn I'm not a team guy. You know, I'm an author for a reason. I spend a lot of time by myself in my own head, and my wife says I'm never happier than when I'm in my office writing, which I think that's an outrageous accusation. Personally, I love spending time with them. So I do go out, I do things, but this is fun for me, and I'm so lucky that I can do what would be a hobby, that's something I enjoy and something I'm passionate about, but I can actually do it for a living. So I can't believe people pay me to do this for a living. It's the best job in the world. It really is.
I'm glad that you feel lucky. I know that readers feel lucky that you are writing these amazing stories. And speaking of readers, whether it's existing fans or new fans, where is the best place for folks to find you so they can find out what's coming next and more about all of your other books?
Oh, you can find me on most of the main social media channels, but I have a website, jmdalgliesh.com. You'll just have to learn how to spell it. I spend most of my life on the phone to call centers phonetically spelling my name, and it's going to be something that takes me to my grave, I think, in the end. But if you search me on Amazon or on Facebook, I'm there. Twitter, it's always going to be Twitter for me, but I'm still on X, you know, I'm still around there. So you can find me there. But as I say, if you go to my website, there are links to all the different platforms where you can find my books or my ebooks or my audio, wherever you are in the world. You know, you can click on the link and it'll take you wherever you want to go. Well, I'll be more than welcome to have you there.
Well, I have to thank you so much for such a great read. Again, the story is Homewrecker, and it is amazing. Thank you, Jason.
You're welcome. Thank you very much for your time.
And thank you all for joining us on this episode of Twisted Passages. We hope to see you next time.